Good evening, everybody. It's Friday night, and I'm here at Painted Studio creating more fun. By the way, if you're not familiar with me, I'm Maury Curtis Dunbar, owner, creative director, and head mess maker at Painted Studio. And earlier today, we started making projects specifically for my husband's birthday. Earlier today, we worked on an apron, which, by the way, came out super cute. I walked everybody through the process of how to pull up your Cricut maker, how to load and do heat transfer vinyl, and then how to make something happen. Well, the rest of the day came out. We got this pocket says professional cook. This one says grill master. I think he's gonna love it. And he has been forbidden to watch Facebook Lives this weekend because he's not allowed to spoil his own birthday. Surprise. So we finished that one up today, and then we earlier started a tile similar to this one. Now the other one has Prime-Etch on it. Faux Effects Prime-Etch, if you missed the earlier live, is what we use after we clean, scuff clean, and wipe down with denatured alcohol, something like ceramic, linoleum, formica, stuff like that. And Prime-Etch is a Faux Effects product. Yes, mine's in an unmarked jar because I dropped my jar, but we do carry it, and it is for hard to bond surfaces. So I use this a great deal when I have a really challenging surface, and I know specifically that tile can be an issue. So I made sure to put a coat of Prime-Etch on this, let it cure a minimum, one more time, a minimum of 24 hours. Don't rush this because this is a slow cure, slow bond. So you want to have that full 24-hour period to bond into your surface. The name etch, I know everybody thinks, sorry, my hair is falling in my face and it's hot in here. I know everybody thinks that when you say etch, you think of glass etching solutions. That's not what this is. This is a primer, and what it does is etch into the surface. Really what it does for something like laminate and stuff that's a little plasticky, it kind of co-bonds with those plastic, is how chemical reaction really grabs onto it, and does very similar things with top coats on tiles. All right, let's aim this down. Now the next thing I did on this is I put a layer of metallic navy set coat. That's Faux Effects high bonding paint and primer that makes they make great metallics that are high coverage and super durable. They are not the same as Faux Effects Metal Glow, which is a softer paint and is mica based, and while it's got incredible luminosity, it doesn't have the durability that set coat has. And I put a layer of our Artsyville foil adhesive on. I simply brushed it on and let it cure for an hour. And the next thing we're going to do is release our blue pebble foil on here. Now, I'm going to lay this down. I didn't quite cut it the whole as long as this thing is, but that's okay. And if I have little dimples and pebbles, that's kind of the deal with being in a very active studio. Very few surfaces are spotless. So I'm going to burnish this down with my hand first, all the way over here, but I am not going to get this edge, because if I do this edge, I will end up with a sharply demarcation where this ended and where I'm going to overlap. But if I leave it soft, I'll get a nice blur over it, and you will not see where the seaming is. I have more trouble doing that on cups than on anything else because the foil likes to fold right against the cup. And I found this cool new thing. Well, it's not a new thing, but it's a cool thing. Mini scrub brush. Okay, this is the average size of a scrub brush. You can see them bigger. I went to Home Depot the other day to pick up some sanitizer and paper towels. They had mini scrub brushes. So I'm going to try my mini scrub brush on this one. And notice I am only going in a vertical and horizontal direction. I'm not going to go in circles. Why? Because if I scrub like this and I have a less than perfect release, you'll see those circular scrub marks and everything. Hey Maddie, nice to see you again. I don't know if I said hi to you earlier because I was kind of chatting. And the other thing you might notice, if you look at this, you can see you can see it right there. This is one of those bubbles that I've spoken of in the past where the foil just laid down and I pushed on it and it transferred so flawlessly. I got a translucent bubble here. So if I kind of work that bubble on the foil, I get really nice release that way. So I try to work my bubbles if they show up. Because this is probably one of the things that gets like almost a flawless release if I can get a bubble going. And I did foil the sides of the tile. I put adhesive on the sides of the tile because I want to make sure that this look is all the way around. All right. Let's pull it back and see how we're at. Oh, nice release. Nice. Nearly flawless. Now, I do have to get this little spot over here. So I'll just take this over where it was before and overlap, give a little rub, and I do have a little spot there that needs to be, because there was a little skip spot actually in the foil right there. I want to get those edges to make sure the whole thing is done. Oh, that released perfectly. I just want to stick this right there to get that one little spot. There we go. So now we have this, look, I mean, hey Lolly, nice to see. I mean, first of all, look at that great release in our blue pebble foil. How pretty is that? So my husband is a huge football guy, huge. So what I decided to do, instead of anything else, like I had all kinds of themes in my head. What I actually did is I bought some SVG files and I created the Chicago, I got a Chicago Bear and I got the Chicago C, and then I typed out Chicago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the C over here, I'm going to put the bear here, and then I'm going to have the Chicago part run through the middle. And it's all, these are all done. You'll see when I peel this back and release it, I actually did all of this in copper, slide that out to the side, in copper metallic foil from my Cricut maker, so that we'll have the blue and the green of Chicago, and I mean, sorry, the blue and the orange, the blue and the orange of Chicago's theme, but a little more sophisticated, which my husband will like. Now, when I pull back my backing film, sometimes a little bit of a foil can come off. Some people don't like that slight change. It doesn't bother me because I'm going to be doing this all over the thing, and I found that once I pour epoxy over it, you will not see that. You will not see that differentiation. But if that bothers you, before you do what I just did, put a thin layer of top coat like Aqua Guard on there, and that'll be just fine. So now here's my Chicago Bear. And let me tell you, when I bought the SVG file, this face was in pieces. I had to actually take the photo of this from the website and move everything around to place the bear face properly. So sometimes the SVG files are really, really easy, and then sometimes they show up and like in pieces, and you have to figure out how to do it. Fortunately, you know, I'm pretty good with random weird puzzles, and I need to burnish this down a little bit on here because it's not wanting to roll back easily. And I'm going to put the tray to the side again so I can roll this back in front of me. It's much easier if I have it this way. And of course, this doesn't want to stick to the transfer tape tonight. Nothing wants to stick to the transfer tape tonight. All right, I gotta take my little X-Acto knife, even though I burnished this whole thing down so carefully. So this, of course, is gonna be a pain in my butt tonight. Why not? Because it can be. This is why you need a little patience sometimes working with this stuff, because that C came off like a dream. This one is being a pain in the tuchus. So I just got to go slowly, peel it off the backing tape, roll it forward onto the transfer tape, and try not to screw it up. Because I don't have any more copper foil or vinyl if I screw this up. So say a little prayer for me. Nothing wants to transfer easily. I don't know what the heck I did. I must not have burnished this really well. Watch this roll back. I'm like, this never happens. I must not have taken my little squeegee thing and burnished this to the transfer tape very well. It's the only thing I can think, because normally I don't have this much trouble. And you saw it come off the other one just fine. So I guess I kind of screwed up somewhere. And truly, most of the time, you'll find that if something isn't working right, it's rarely the fault of the material. It's usually end user application issues, meaning the person messing with it is the one having the problem, not the stuff you're using with. There we go. All right, I got that taken out. I'm going to put my Bear. I'm doing this off camera before something bad happens and I drop it. And I'm going to bring it back to the camera. Sorry. I live in fear of doing dumb things. Once I get something off that was a little challenging, I have a fear reaction of making it like, oh God, I just got it finally right and now I'm going to screw it up. So now I'm going to peel back. And again, roll your tape back parallel to the surface. Don't pull it straight up, because that puts too much tension on the surface and that's how things get ripped. All right, so these are done. The last thing I have to do is put the Chicago right there. So I want it to sit between this. It'll be in copper, thinner script. I did burnish this. Let's see how badly this doesn't want to come off. Again, the tile's got to go to the side so I can get at this. I'm going to take a little stirry sticky thingy. I don't know why it's sticking to the transfer tape on this one better than it's sticking to, or sticking to the backing tape better than it's sticking to the transfer tape. Where's my knife? Make it fun for us, screw it up. Oh, Rima, I threw a whole shirt away yesterday. Isn't that enough for 24 hours? Let me wait until tomorrow before I have to throw one more thing away. And by the way, I don't mind screwing. I know other people worry about screwing up on camera. I actually don't mind it, because when I make a mistake, it's a teaching moment. It's something we all learn from. And you can, I'm really far from perfect. So it's always good to see somebody make a mistake occasionally on camera, because then it makes it more approachable, I think, personally, because when I watch people and they make a mistake, I'm like, oh, okay, they're normal. I can handle that. Okay, so we got the Chicago to go with the C, and I thought it'd be fun to use the bare C and then put that in script. Now let me see if I can place that so it looks balanced, or if I'm going to do this and it's going to look really bad. And I just made the decision where it's going because the C stayed. And that's okay. It'll work just fine. Now, I'm a little off on my O here. It's right into the bear, but I'm okay with that. Again, it hit the surface a little faster than I wanted it to, but I already dropped some letters on, and I am not going to take a chance of screwing this up. And if I was really, really unhappy, I could go in, because these aren't super tightly adhered, I didn't burnish them down. I could pick these up and move them, but you know what? I'm not going to, because that is a guarantee for me to screw it up. Food is going to cover it, yes. So first, here we go. This is our look for the Chicago Bears. I think that came out fun. I do wish I had been able to shift this just a hint. I wanted to move the H over here, and then that O wouldn't be there, but it hit there and stuck, and I'm okay with it. So the next step we have to do now is make this food safe. So I'm going to take 2 little cans. I'm going to put it right up on the cans. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our liquid glass 2-part epoxy resins. I have gloves over here, so the first thing I need to do, obviously, is put on gloves. We all know, you've seen me throwing, you've seen me spilling. Fortunately, I'm not wearing anything today that if I spill it on, I'm going to care about. So that's why I'm going dangerous and leaving my apron off. So first thing we're going to do is mix up our epoxy. I'm going to just set that to the side for a second so you can see me mix. Now on the side here, it'll tell you half pint kit gives you about 2 square feet, 1 pint kit gives you 4 square feet, 1 quart kit gives you 8 square feet, 1 gallon gives you about 30. So I don't even know how much I have left in here. Watch, my stuff has been in here for a while. It's a little stuck to the jars, stuck to the box. But we have more than enough to make good things happen. Let me make sure. Now, when you're pouring this, by the time you're done with your jar or your bottles, you should be pouring down and having these be darn near even. Now, occasionally mine aren't because I do something dumb, like I pour 2 of the same thing and can't remember which one it was that I poured. So I end up throwing out the whole batch. Rima, yes, I do sell liquid glass. I sell art resin and I sell liquid glass. Now the reason I'm choosing this product today over art resin is very specific. We're working on a hard surface. It's going to be used for food and stuff. So I want to make sure I'm using the least flexible of the 2-part epoxies that I carry. And art resin dries harder and more rigid. And that's really what I wanted. Okay, let me make sure I am even here. I'm coming down to the end of my bottles, but I don't trust them to be completely perfectly even. So I like to check anyway, because when you come down to the end of the bottles, when you pour it out and dump like that, there's still stuff sticking to the insides. So you never know if you've gotten exactly the right amount out until it's poured into the jars. You need dead even amounts. If you can't pour like I just did, which I don't recommend for most people, use measuring cups, okay? And you're going to pour part B into part A. The reason you're doing that is part A is thinner, and it's easier to pour the thicker part into the thinner part and mix it up than the reverse. And when you're doing epoxy, and I've said that, I say this every time because I know we have new people watching. First of all, you need to mix this for 2 minutes. So somebody set a timer. If you're not sure what 2 minutes is, time it. And you must scrape the sides and get down and scrape the bottom. Now the reason for this is, if you do this wrong, it doesn't set up right. So dead even means you have to have equal parts of hardener and resin. If you don't have enough hardener and you have too much resin, your epoxy never sets quite right. It's soft, it can be gummy, you can dent it, it will never be what you wanted it to be. If you put too much hardener in and not enough resin, it gets very, very, very brittle, very, very, very fast. And it sets up too fast, and it doesn't stay laminated to the surface properly. It just wants to kind of crack and pull off. What is my website again? Thank you, darling. It is paintedstudio.com. All right, so I'm stirring. I'm close enough to a couple minutes here. Now, I've seen people do this, and they stir, and they're like this, because they don't want to get bubbles into their resin. Well, you're not going to mix this properly. You need to be aggressive. And if you are doing this on a big project, you might want to bring in a squirrel mixer, you know, the attachment that you put on your drill, because this has to be stirred properly. Now you have about 45 minutes pot time. Pot time is the amount of time from when it's mixed up and ready to pour to when it starts to harden and becomes too thick to use. So it's about 45 minutes pot time. If you mix this in large batches, mix them in low wide containers rather than tall thin ones, because the low wide containers actually allow the pot time to stay open longer. In taller, thinner ones, it gets hot. And you can actually melt your pot. I've done that. That's an interesting moment. And you can, it will start, when it gets hot like that, it starts to set up inside the pot. So you get this weird lumpy stuff that you pour out. All right, we're good to go here. So the next thing I'm going to do, because I can't walk away from this, it's a birthday present and it's maybe for my husband, but I got to fix it, because I gotta have a little glitter. So we're putting a little bit of Bear's Color glitter in here. So we're putting a little navy blue in. Don't worry, Rima. I will stir more once I put the glitter in. I promise. And then I'm gonna put a little copper glitter in. And I don't wanna put it a lot, because I don't want this to be just like glitter galore. I just want a little extra shimmer to it. All right, so I can put the glitter in. Stir, 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 stir. And if you notice, the glitter doesn't, makes it look dirty just because of that it's in there, but it does not pigment the epoxy. You don't want it to do that. You want the epoxy clear, and you want the glitter to be floating in it. All right. Sorry for the table shaking. All right, we are well stirred, and it looks opaque, but that's really the bubbles in there. Okay, putting this on the tile. I'm making sure there's nothing else around this, because I'm going to pour this, and this is going to be left alone. Nobody's going to touch it for the rest of the night, because it needs a good 10 to 12 hours to be good and firm for the cure. If I wanted a second coat on there. Oops, I dropped the stir stick. That's all right, I'll just use it to spread the epoxy around. And then if I needed to second coat it, I can put a second coat on this at 4 hours, because it's firm enough to pour on, but it's still soft enough for it to kind of bond into the original coat. And I'm pouring this whole thing, because I've got, this is 6 by 24, so I've got about 1.5 feet of square foot of surface here. All right. Don't anybody tell me my math is wrong about what the measurements are, you know, how many square feet. It doesn't matter. 6 inches wide is 24. It's actually probably just a square foot, really. But it doesn't matter at the moment. I do math in my head when I'm talking, and the math doesn't come out right. If I shut up and do the math in my head, it always comes out right. So obviously, there are moments I clearly cannot talk and think. So I'm moving this all around the surface. I'm not worried about if it's even or perfect, because that'll come later. And the one thing I will do is dip my finger in a little bit of epoxy and run it along the sides. I want to make sure I've got a coating of epoxy on all sides here. And the reason for that is that if I don't physically put the epoxy on the edge, it's not going to flow uniformly over the edges so that I get a nice smooth coating on the sides. And what's worse is if I don't do this, I'll get weird and really unattractive dribbles because it will not have had this slip coat set up for it to pour across. Okay. And you can either come back on a regular basis and run your finger under here around the edge to catch the drips, or you can let the drips fall as they may and come back when it's hard and just clip them off with a wire snipper, which is usually what I do. It's actually far less work. So now you're going to take a little blow torch. I have big blow torches, and then this is a larger creme brulee torch that I got. It's called a benzomatic. I got it with my other torches. I get them at Home Depot. And you're going to light it, and you're going across the surface. You're not going into the surface. And what this does is it liquefies. The heat makes the epoxy more liquid. More liquid epoxy allows the bubbles to rise, and then the CO2 that happens when you're torching helps the bubbles pop. So you definitely want to torch this, and you might want to come back, torch once, let it sit for half an hour, 10 minutes, an hour, come back and torch it again, just because sometimes bubbles come up after the first torching and don't get popped, so they can get popped in the second torching. And I'm trying to get my corners. I see a little bitty edge right there that I want to get. And unfortunately, it doesn't really show on camera, but when I'm looking at it, it looks like a steak sizzling. It just sees like little ripples of little bubbles popping all over the place. It's a very cool effect. It's like a wave of that happening. So there's also a couple other tricks. If you have a dimple in it, you can take your finger and pat it like that to build up that area. Do not just stick the torch in there and hope that that will level that out. That's not what happens. You end up burning a hole in your finish. The other thing is, if you've got some funny surfaces, you're seeing a little dimpling, it's a little rippled, you can take denatured alcohol in a sprayer like I normally have around here, but I'm not going to do it because I have candles burning too, and I don't need to set the place on fire. But normally I can take a little denatured alcohol, spritz it on here. It helps level out the surface because alcohol is what the cleaning solvent is for this. So you're actually putting a little solvent on top of it. Give it a second or two to evaporate, and then you can torch it again. Excuse me. So you all know, when I get off of these, I don't talk. So doing this where I'm babbling nonstop and then going back into silence, it's a little confusing. So there we go. That is my husband's Chicago Bears charcuterie tray, because that's what he loves. He is a cheese and pate and meat guy, and now he's going to have his very own tray just for that. during football season. Football season's going to be weird enough as it is. I'm going to make sure it's a good one for him by doing this. Let me pull this up without sticking my sleeve in the epoxy, and we're going to say good night. All right, everybody. So we had a great epoxy turnout again. If my hands had been a little steadier, I could have moved that Chicago word a little bit. You don't talk. You're laughing at me, Rima. People know me as very chatty because when I'm around people, I'm very talkative. But when I'm here working, I live for the silence. It gives my head a chance to kind of come together and get my ideas going. And a lot of the time, I don't talk for most of the day. Oh, Desiree, thank you. I know Rima knows me pretty well, so she knows I'm a chatty Cathy around people. I've never been afraid to offer an opinion even when it wasn't asked. But I'm also a very, very quiet person most of the time. But people don't know that because I leave and go and be away from people to be really quiet. That's a lot of my time when I'm working. If there's nobody in here, I'm like, oh, thank you. I can work quietly. But I love it when people come in too, because then I get to talk. All right, I have babbled on for a while. Yes, Rima, yes, I'm very chatty. You're welcome to tease me. You've known me a long time, Rima. We are good friends. It's okay. Rima and I have a long friendly history together. All right, everybody. It's Friday night. Oh, thank you, sweetie. I am going to go eat some dinner. I have some more work here to do, and then I'm going to go home and spend some time with my family. All right, everybody. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.